What if the person you betrayed turned out to own the very place where you thought you could hide your lies? The city lights flickered like liquid gold across the windows of the Black Pearl Hotel as Daniel Hayes stepped out of a sleek car with a woman who wasn't his wife, her perfume clinging to the night air. He adjusted his tie the same way he did before every business deal, confident, charming, untouchable, the kind of man who thought consequences were for other people. Grace laughed, softly beside him, her red dress catching every shimmer of the chandelier as they walked into the lobby. Daniel smiled at the receptionist. Reservation for Hayes' penthouse suite, please. His voice, smooth, practiced, dangerous, as they rode the elevator. Grace leaned against the mirror, smiling. I still can't believe you do this every week. Doesn't your wife ever wonder? He grinned. My wife wonders about everything except what matters. Grace laughed, unaware of the storm that waited just above them. The suite was perfect, soft light, expensive wine, the smell of roses meant to disguise the truth. Daniel poured 2 glasses, lifted his to toast. To secrets that stay in rooms like this, she smiled. To wives who never find out, they both laughed, but fate had already dialed their floor number. A soft knock broke their laughter. Daniel frowned. That was fast, he muttered and opened the door. His blood turned to ice. The smile on his face vanished. His wife Claire stood there, wearing a white suit. Her hair pulled back, her eyes sharp enough to slice through glass. The kind of calm that only comes before a hurricane. Hello, Daniel, she said sweetly. I see your taste in women hasn't changed. His mouth went dry. Claire, what are you doing here? She stepped inside without waiting for an answer, her heels clicking on marble. I own the place now, she said quietly. Didn't you hear the news? I bought this hotel last week. Looks like you finally brought me somewhere nice. Daniel stood frozen as Claire walked deeper into the suite, her eyes scanning the untouched glasses of wine, the soft light, the expensive lies. Grace shifted awkwardly, clutching her purse, her voice trembling. I should probably go. Claire turned her head slowly, her tone calm and sharp. Stay, dear, you might want to hear this. Daniel tried to speak, but his voice cracked. Claire, please, this isn't what it looks like. She smiled, the kind of smile that made his chest tighten. You're right, Daniel, it looks worse. She walked to the window, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. You know what's funny? She said softly. I begged you once to stay home on weekends. You said, business never sleeps. Turns out your business was just pleasure in disguise. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Regret already. Sinking into his bones. Claire, this isn't fair. She turned to face him, her voice trembling slightly. Fair was when I loved you through everything. Fair was when I believed every story you told me. Fair ended the day you walked out the door. Grace took a step back, whispering, I didn't know he was married. Claire nodded politely. I believe you. It's easy to fall for men who pretend to be honest. Daniel snapped. Claire, please stop humiliating me. She looked at him steadily. No, Daniel, this isn't humiliation. This is reflection. This is what you look like when the lies finally melt off your skin. She reached into her purse, pulled out a thin envelope and placed it on the table. These are the ownership papers. The company you once called your empire is now under my control. Daniel's voice fell into a whisper. You bought my company. She nodded smoothly. Every share, every contract, every investor, the ones you ignored, believed in me instead. He laughed bitterly. You did all this for revenge. She shook her head. I did this to survive. Revenge was just the side effect. Her tone softened for a second. I spent years thinking I was broken, but I realized I was just buried under your pride, and now I've dug myself out. She took one last look around the room where everything began to fall apart. Her hand brushed against the table, the sound of her wedding ring clicking against the glass. Louder than thunder, she whispered. You told me once that power makes a person untouchable. Now I'm powerful enough not to need you. She walked to the door, paused and said softly, Tell Grace to finish her drink, it's on the house. Then she left, leaving behind silence, thicker than guilt. Daniel stood still, staring at the door as it closed behind her. His reflection in the glass looked smaller, weaker, broken. Grace hesitated near the table, unsure what to say. She whispered, I didn't know she was your wife, I swear. Daniel didn't answer. His hands shook as he reached for the untouched wine. Glass, his mind spinning in disbelief. She bought my company, he murmured, his voice hollow. She took everything. Grace took a step closer. "Daniel, maybe you should go after her." He looked up at her eyes, filled with shame and confusion. "Go after her after what she just did? She destroyed me." Grace's voice softened. "Maybe she just showed you what you destroyed first." He said nothing for a long time, then set the glass down and walked to the window below. The city moved on, unaware of the war inside his chest. He thought about all the years he had spent chasing power-building walls of money around himself, never realizing the cost of the heart he crushed to get there. His phone buzzed again, Claire's name flashing on the screen. He stared at it. For a long second before answering, she spoke first, her tone calm and tired. "You don't have to say anything. I didn't come here to humiliate you." "Daniel, I came because I needed to see if you'd changed." "I guess I have my answer." He swallowed hard. "Claire, please listen, I was stupid. I thought having more would fill the emptiness, but it never did. I lost myself and I lost you." She sighed quietly. "I don't need your apology, Daniel. I just hope you find something real this time. Something that can't be bought." Her voice softened slightly. "I didn't plan to see you tonight. Fate just wanted me to close the chapter myself," he whispered. "What do you want me to do?" She paused for a moment, then said, "Start over without hurting anyone this time." The line went silent. Daniel sat there alone, the city lights reflecting in his eyes until they blurred into tears. He wiped them away and whispered to himself, "Start over." Meanwhile, Claire sat in her office at the top floor of the same hotel she once dreamed of visiting as a guest. Now it was hers. Her reflection shone faintly against the window. She placed her wedding ring on the desk and closed her eyes for the first time in years. There was peace, not revenge, not victory, just peace. She whispered, "Softly, I didn't lose you, Daniel. I just found myself again." The morning sun rose over the city, washing the glass towers in gold. Claire stepped into the hotel lobby, her name now engraved on the brass plaque beside the entrance. The Hayes Group, owned and operated by Claire Hayes. The staff straightened proudly when she passed some out of respect, others out of quiet awe. She had become a symbol not of revenge, but of resilience. The woman who rebuilt herself from ashes. Daniel's ashes in her new office. She stood by the same window where her husband once boasted about power. Now the city below felt calm, not like something to own, but something to understand. Her assistant entered quietly. "Ma'am, there's someone here to see you." Claire turned slowly. Daniel stood in the doorway wearing the same suit from last night, but his shoulders were lower, his eyes red from a night without sleep. She didn't speak at first, just waited. He took a deep breath and said quietly, "I didn't come to ask for forgiveness. I came to say thank you." She frowned, confused. "Thank me for what he swallowed, for teaching me that the things I built weren't really mine, because I built them on lies." She watched him for a long second and then said, softly, "You didn't lose everything. Daniel, you still have a chance to be better." He nodded. "I will. I promise." She walked to her desk, opened a drawer, and took out a white envelope. She handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked. "It's a partnership offer. She said you were good at business once when you still had a heart. Rebuild your company, but do it right this time." He looked at her, stunned. "You'd help me after everything I did." She smiled faintly. "That's the difference between us, Daniel. You broke people to rise. I lift them even when they hurt me." He took the envelope slowly, tears in his eyes. "I don't deserve this." She met his gaze calmly. "Maybe not yet, but one day you will." He nodded quietly and turned to leave, stopping at the door. He said softly, "You really did become what I always pretended to be." She smiled. "I just stopped pretending." That evening she stood alone on the rooftop, the city glowing beneath her. She looked out at the skyline, whispering to herself, "You took everything from me, Daniel, but you also gave me the strength to build again. And now I know who I am." She closed her eyes, letting the wind brush her hair, and when she opened them again, there was no anger left, only light. If this story made you smile, share it with someone who needs a reminder that accidents can turn into beautiful beginnings.